This is News at 11 on WCJB TV 20, your local station.
Good evening. Hurricane Michael is now a Category 1 storm and is moving east of Albany, Georgia, with winds of 75 miles an hour.
And in about 4 hours, high tide will hit the Gulf Coast. What impact will that have in north central Florida towns that are already flooded? Our chief meteorologist, Bill Quinlan, joins us. And Bill, how high will the storm surge be?
Well, we're probably still looking anywhere between a 4, 5, or even 6-foot storm surge at high tide, as we expect to see that be an issue as we head through the overnight hours. So we are expecting to see the winds slacken a bit as we head through the next several hours, most likely getting down to tropical storm strength. Right now, 75-mile-an-hour winds moving to the northeast at 20, so it's really picked up speed almost twice as fast as it was earlier this morning, and it will continue on that track and moving up into Macon, Georgia, continuing to move off towards the north and east from there, up towards Augusta, Georgia, and then into parts of South Carolina and North Carolina. After that, it pulls offshore of New Jersey and then out to the Canadian Maritimes with time. Still looking at tropical storm warnings along the east coast from Norfolk all the way down just north of Jacksonville. And the hurricane warning continues along the coastline here north of the town of Suwannee on the Suwannee River all the way back up to St. Mark's and even areas back out towards the west because the winds are still strong enough to produce some potential hurricane conditions out there. Tornado watch has been cut back dramatically across north central Florida now just for Gilchrist County to the north into Columbia County, Suwannee County, Union County, and Baker County. And we're still expecting to see a few showers and thunderstorms building back in north central Florida. You can see them here. Nothing too significant as of yet. We'll be watching this to see if we anything rotating within these. But from Live Oak southwards down towards Mayo, moving into Union County, Bradford County, and Alachua County, still a few isolated showers here from High Springs and then just to the other side of I-75 near Newberry. And probably going to be coming in towards Hawthorne here in just a short bit. North of Ocala and then south and west of Ocala near Janellen, English, Yankeetown, and Crystal River. Just a couple of isolated showers here and there. The winds are slackening off a bit, but we are expecting to see some gusty conditions overnight tonight. We'll have a look at that in your forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Bill. Continuing our Hurricane Michael coverage, Michael, as Bill mentioned, made landfall east of Panama City, but the coastal communities of north central Florida felt the storm as well.
Residents of the coast and Levy and Dixie counties are out checking their homes after being put under a mandatory evacuation. TV 20's Brianna Villegas joins us live in the newsroom to see the damage Hurricane Michael left behind.
Hi, Dave, Paige. I'm about to show you a couple pictures sent in from our viewers about the damage they've been seeing around their homes. But first, I'm going to show you a video sent in from Horseshoe Beach. Right here behind me, you can see it looks like a parking lot that's completely submerged underwater. This is actually Marina and Jake's Pub out on Horseshoe Beach. This was sent in from Nancy Kite out on Horseshoe Beach again. And this next picture is sent in from Crystal River from Cameron Keaton. This is let's go back. There we go. This is water coming in from Kings Bay into their neighborhood, and this is over in Crystal River. And this next picture is in Cedar Key. It's out on the Marina Hardware in Cedar Key, and this was from Cedar Key Fire Rescue. And here we have a backyard over in the Yankeetown area. This was one of the areas that was under mandatory evacuation, as well as Steinhatchee. This is over in Taylor County, and as you can see, this road is completely submerged, or there's a part of it that is submerged, and there's still people there in the area who did not decide to evacuate. But today I talked to a resident from Yankeetown who tells me that she and her neighbors are actually now very relieved that the storm is now over.
Between the wind and the high tide and everything else, everybody was just staring around devastated.
It's not easy for a small town like Yankeetown to recover from a hurricane as forceful as Hurricane Michael, even if it didn't take a direct hit.
It seems a little crazy, the hurricanes we've had the last few years.
That's why Jennifer Molzen says she's relieved she isn't seeing as much damage as residents were expecting.
All the homes are fine. I guess there's still some concern about the 3 a.m. tide tonight. So I guess people are still waiting to see what happens with that.
Yankeetown was one of the coastal communities in north central Florida that was under mandatory evacuation.
A lot of residents stating that they did not get any flooding in their house. They were close, but they did not get any flooding. So we were really lucky, I think, that we didn't get a lot of the flooding that was anticipated.
McDonald and Molson say they were riding around with Yankeetown Mayor Jack Schofield, taking pictures and making sure residents had everything they needed.
The people standing out there in wetsuits, staring, just waiting and watching.
Although Molson says the morning tide concerns her the most, recovery is what the town will be focusing on next.
Could have been a lot worse. So I think we're very happy with the outcome, to be honest with you.
Yankeetown leaders will be heading out to assess the damage tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And to stay updated on weather conditions, you can head to our website, WCJB.com. Reporting live in the newsroom, Brianda Villegas, TV 20 News.
Hurricane Michael has also forced closures across north central Florida.
Schools, courts, and roads are closed due to the impact of Michael. Let's take a look. School closures first. For the rest of the week in Alachua County, Blue Pearl Academy and Newberry Christian Community School are closed tomorrow. In Bradford, Columbia, Dixie, and Gilchrist counties, public schools are also closed tomorrow. Florida Gateway College has announced it will be closed tomorrow. And in Suwannee and Union counties, public schools are closed through the rest of the week. But for teachers, Friday is still a teacher workday.
Moving on to court closures in north central Florida, circuit courts in Columbia, Dixie, Gilchrist, and Suwannee counties will be closed tomorrow. Hasn't been released whether or not the courts will be open on Friday yet. Roads that were previously closed in Levy and Dixie counties are now back open. Drivers need to be mindful, though, that for some of those roads, you'll have to show proof of residency to get through. For a full list of closures, you can go to our website, WCJB.com.
Gainesville Regional Airport and University Air Center will host a relief effort for hurricane victims in storm damaged areas. Operation Airdrop is a nonprofit that organizes volunteer aircraft owners and pilots to deliver supplies to disaster areas. Volunteers will arrive at the Gainesville Regional Airport on Friday, and supply delivery is expected to start on Saturday.
The Panhandle was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Michael today, including our sister station in Panama City, WJHG. They broadcast Facebook Lives when they lost power.
The station's building saw damage from the flooding, and in the newsroom to the roof starting to rip off. We spoke with one of their reporters, Megan Bell, who says everyone is okay, but at this hour, they're still off the air. Megan sent us a report out of Franklin County to show us what it was like earlier today. Take a look.
Well, Hurricane Michael definitely left its mark in Franklin County. Low-lying areas throughout the county and areas along the coastline are seeing significant flooding and storm surge. Right now, I'm standing on the bridge that connects the Apalachicola area to the city of East Point. And take a look at this. Vehicles are submerged or blown over, and some shops and restaurants like the 13-mile seafood market right there on Water Street are flooded inside and out. Now, Apalachicola is also seeing downed power lines and debris crowding downtown streets. Several homes, shops, and businesses have been without power since early this morning. No word yet on when that power will be restored, but just moments ago we tried to cross the bridge to check out the damage in the East Point area, but so much debris is covering the roadway we simply just couldn't get across. We'll have more details for you out of this part of the Panhandle as soon as we get them. Reporting in Apalachicola, Megan Bell, News Channel 7.
And the station has since continued updating their viewers from Facebook. Our hearts go out to them.
And nearly 200,000 people are without power in the Panhandle, and search and rescue teams are expected to be out much of the night surveying damage.
Mike Vaseline is in the state capitol tonight, where trees and downed power lines are significant.
There are more than 60,000 people here in the capital city without power tonight. You can see why behind me. There are trees down everywhere. We caught up with Mayor Andrew Gillum as he and we were out surveying damage. He says it's going to be a while before they know how long it will take to get the power back on. Is it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, it could certainly have been a lot worse, but really damage and impact depends on the eye of the beholder. If you're in this neighborhood, in this community, you don't know if you fared so well. We've been in various parts of our city. We've seen a lot of down trees, a lot of down lines. Our utility crews, the one I'm in right now, are now doing observations. They're walking the lines and driving the lines and also driving our transmission lines to get an assessment of what the impact is to the system. I'm waiting on that report because that will tell us a lot. That will tell us about how quickly we can get back up and going.
So you don't know that yet?
We don't know that yet.
Well, Tallahassee appeared to dodge a very big bullet. Counties south of us did not fare so well. We'll know more about the damage there when tours can be made tomorrow.
In addition to downed trees, many traffic lights are also without power. One person in Gadsden County died when a tree fell on a house.
This evening, Governor Rick Scott held a news briefing on Hurricane Michael. Here's what he had to say about rescue and recovery.
As I said earlier today, we are deploying a massive wave of response. We will be sending help from air, land, and sea. This includes thousands of responders for power restoration, medical search and rescue, law enforcement, food and water distribution, and every other critical resource.
This evening, members of Marion County Fire Rescue, Ocala Fire Rescue, and Gainesville Fire Rescue deployed to help with the search and rescue efforts. And then tomorrow morning, the first group of 60 FWC officers and 5 support staff will leave from Florida State Fire College to help storm-impacted areas.
And there are going to be a lot of those, it sounds like, after Michael tore through the Panhandle today.
We'll be right back with Bill and an update on Hurricane Michael.
Well, the latest on Hurricane Michael, it continues to move off towards the north and the east, picking up a little bit of speed, also weakening somewhat. It had been almost a Category 5 with 155-mile-an-hour winds as it moved onshore in Mexico Beach, then moved to the northwest of Tallahassee and then into southwestern Georgia, where it still has quite a bit of a punch. 75-mile-an-hour winds this far inland, this far removed from when it made landfall. It's a very impressive storm and will continue to head up towards Macon, Georgia, where they will most likely see at least tropical storm force winds, potentially hurricane force winds for a short bit, and the tornado threat will continue on that area. Here in north central Florida, the tornado threat is diminishing a bit. We still have one line of showers and storms out into the Gulf of Mexico, but the cloud cover is making it look more impressive than the radar actually is. As you can see right here, as it moves to the north of Albany, headed towards Macon right now in southern Georgia, the cloud shield getting interrupted by some dry air getting entrained into it now. That definitely weakens the storm. It's interacting with the land, so the friction with the land and the lack of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico is starving this system, which means it should continue to weaken, but probably going to maintain as at least a tropical storm as it moves through parts of South Carolina and North Carolina, producing a lot of heavy rainfall where they don't need it again, and then heading off towards the north and the east from there out into the open Atlantic. So now it's just to the south of Macon, Georgia, taking that turn to the north and east, and it's really sped up now to the northeast at 20 miles an hour, but 75-mile-an-hour winds continuing on that track. As we look at the forecast track over the next several days, you'll see it moving up towards Augusta, Georgia, just north of Columbia, South Carolina, towards Raleigh, Durham, and then heading out to sea later on just offshore of New Jersey and then to the Canadian Maritimes. It's still going to have a punch as it heads off towards the north and the east. And because of that, we are still seeing tropical storm warnings along the coast from Norfolk all the way down just north of Jacksonville. But the hurricane warnings have expired across north central Florida. Interior sections still looking for these to be let up over the next hour or so. Tropical storm warnings, but the storm is still hurricane force back up to the north. So potential for maybe some tropical storm wind conditions for a short bit. You'll notice the watches have all disappeared, so no more tornado watch here in north central Florida. And as you look back out with the storms we had earlier today, a number of tornadoes were reported. One funnel cloud, 2 tornadoes, and even back over to Cedar Key, we actually had a waterspout earlier in the early morning hours. So right now we're looking at just a few isolated showers streaming on by, so it's not completely dry out there at this hour. As we look back into Suwannee County and parts of Union County and Alachua County, we're still looking at a few spotty showers from time to time moving on in from the Gulf of Mexico, but they don't have that punch they had earlier today. Once we lost the heating of the day, whatever rotation that might be developing with these has really limited. So that's one of the reasons our tornado watch has expired. Temperature-wise, into the upper 70s, near 80. We're probably not going to change the temperature as much as we had overnight tonight. It's going to be very steamy indeed. Wind speeds out there right now coming out of the south at about 18 at Cedar Key, 12 in Gainesville, 14 in Lake City. And the storm surge potential has really been cut back out north of Keaton Beach now, expected to be 3 to 5 feet, but we're still going to see some storm surge along the coastline here as we look towards Cedar Key with the onshore flow right now. 82 degrees, wind gusts of 23. High tide is at 3:18, heading back up to the north in Horseshoe Beach. High tide here is actually a little bit later than that, about 3:46 in the morning, and as we head to Keaton Beach up the coastline, 3:26 is high tide, so there's still that potential for some damaging storm surge in those areas. What we're looking at as far as showers and storms developing and dying down as we head overnight tonight. Tomorrow, Looks like a pretty nice day as we head through the afternoon hours, and then really drying out on Friday. And then the cooler weather moves in for Saturday morning. Saturday looks like just about a perfect day. 90 degrees for tomorrow. It'll be kind of hot and humid during the daytime hours, but we'll see conditions improving through the daytime and into the early afternoon. But it will be warm. Lots of sunshine for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we'll see those temperatures stay right near 90 degrees. So even though we cool down for one morning, we're still going to keep it hot through the afternoons.
How concerned should we be about inland flooding along the rivers like Suwannee and Santa Fe?
We really didn't have much at all. The biggest concern was maybe along the Suwannee River, the southern Suwannee River, which is much more tidal from Fowler's Bluff southwards. And when that onshore flow, that still could be a bit of an issue, but because the system is weakened considerably, the onshore flow is going to be quite a bit weaker. But I am still worried about the high tide tonight over at Cedar Key, Horseshoe Beach, Suwannee, and up towards areas of Keystone Heights or Keaton Beach as well.
Again, that's at 3:18 tonight for high tide.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Well, the president has declared Florida a federal disaster as experts describe Hurricane Michael as deadly and unprecedented.
And TV 20's Washington correspondent Kyle Madura shows us how leaders are watching from the nation's capital.
For those in the path of Hurricane Michael's destruction, it's too late to get out. Tuesday night, 4,000 people stayed in 70 Red Cross evacuation shelters in Florida and Alabama.
If you failed to heed a warning for any reason, your goal should be to elevate as high as you can and get into a facility that you think can withstand the winds at this point and hope for the best.
The director for the Federal Emergency Management Administration says their top priority is saving lives. Then they'll concentrate on stabilizing lifelines, power, roads, and communication channels.
You always have the option of calling 911, but there's no guarantee that responders can get to you at this point.
Some are expected to be without power for weeks. Senator Marco Rubio says his biggest immediate concern is flooding from storm surge.
It's going to push the Gulf of Mexico inland at 10 to 12 feet in the worst places. And if you're in a low-lying area that floods, you're not going to survive that.
We asked both Senator Rubio and Senator Bill Nelson whether a response equivalent to those seen in Puerto Rico and North Carolina would be adequate for Florida.
To be determined.
Both said FEMA has the resources it needs, and lawmakers may make more available for long-term recovery.
This is not the time for politics. This is the time to save life and property.
FEMA administrators say they could use help from Capitol Hill.
One thing that would help is getting my deputy confirmed. It'd be nice to go through a hurricane season with a deputy director.
But they insist their nearly 3,000 crews are up to the job. In Washington, Kyle Madura, TV 20 News.
FEMA and Red Cross spokespeople suggest you download their apps as additional tools to keep up with the storm. Experts also suggest texting rather than calling friends and family, as phone lines may be overwhelmed.
Coming up tonight, we'll show you more of the damage caused by Hurricane Michael.
Stay with us on the TV 20 News at 11. It could be weeks before the lights come back on for many people who live in the Panhandle.
Michael hit the Florida as a strong Category 4 storm. Now tonight, as we mentioned earlier, it is moving through Georgia and toward the Carolinas. Natasha Chin is in Panama City Beach with more on the record-breaking storm.
Hurricane Michael made history as it slammed into Florida's Panhandle and swept across the southeast.
Hurricane Michael is the worst storm that the Florida Panhandle has ever seen, and one of the worst power storms to ever make landfall in the United States.
The catastrophic, fast-moving storm smashed homes and businesses, knocked out power, and inundated towns with water.
Devastation. This is total devastation.
Just before making landfall, Michael intensified with sustained winds of 155 miles per hour. Michael became the strongest storm to hit the continental U.S. since Hurricane Andrew 26 years ago.
We were all praying as my stepfather and brother were just watching the window.
Michael continued its historical path, becoming the first major hurricane to track into Georgia since 1898. But the destructive storm won't be done anytime soon. Michael continues to pack powerful winds and threaten people's lives. Now those in Michael's wake are left to pick up what the monster storm left behind.
It's going to be an amount of damage that we have not seen, in living memory in this part of the country.
From practice to homework to being a student athlete, well, that is a very busy schedule.
But one student at Santa Fe High School manages to stay on top of her sport and her schoolwork. TV 20's Shauna Kalafi is here with more.
Yeah, she's the captain of the varsity volleyball team at Santa Fe and serves as a leader for her team both on and off the court. Coming up, get to know our Melton Law Scholar Athlete of the Week, Mackenzie Pearson.